Eleanor Ethel Ellington. "Try keeping your eyes on the ball when you swing," suggested Miss Ellington. She had a habit of sneaking up on him and giving him batting tips. Usually, this happened when he was standing around daydreaming about imaginary game-time exploits and forgot to keep an eye out for her. "I do," said Oscar. Said Miss Ellington. "If you say so. Oscar, I would like to request your assistance." She beckoned him from the knee-deep tangle of vines that passed for her lawn. "Sure, Miss Ellington," sighed Oscar, because in his next-door neighbor's dictionary, request meant the same thing as demand, and he could never turn her down. Oscar followed her through rampant vegetation to the garden in the middle of her backyard. It featured rows of beans and peas and tomato plants growing in wire cages. Miss Ellington put her hands on her hips to catch her breath. "We need to water," she finally said. Oscar knew the drill from experience. He and Miss Ellington had been pals a long time. He lifted a rusty watering can from its hook on the side of her garden shed and held it under the spigot of the cistern that caught rain flowing from the downspout leading from the roof. Crystal clear water splashed against the bottom. "Hurry up," grouched Miss Ellington. "Do you want my tomato plants to wilt?" Oscar would have rolled his eyes at her impatience, but the thing is, he didn't want the tomatoes to wilt. He liked those plants. They smelled peppery and tart when he brushed against them, and even if the tiny white prickles on the undersides of the leaves made his skin itch, he still wanted the bushes to grow tall and healthy in the small black bowl-shaped hollows of dirt he and Miss Ellington had planted them in the last time she'd requested his help. He wanted them to bear ruby-red tomatoes, and he wanted to help pick those tomatoes and load them into the basket of Miss Ellington's giant adult tricycle so she could take them down to the farmer's market to sell them. And he wanted to take the 2 tomatoes she always gave him for helping at harvest and slice them and make them into bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwiches to share with his mom. And even though it was hard to admit, he really kind of hoped that next year Miss Ellington would find him standing in front of his house and request his help to start the process all over. Just thinking about it made him feel like part of something bigger than himself. "Are you going to water the tomatoes or stand there staring into space all morning?" asked Miss Ellington. "I'm going to water," replied Oscar. Miss Ellington could get a little bossy. Oscar didn't mind. She was his friend. As he moved from plant to plant, Miss Ellington watched like a hawk over his shoulder, making sure he didn't pour too little or too much. This was a bit nerve-wracking, but Oscar had gotten used to Miss Ellington's habits. At the last tomato plant, which was twice as high as the rest, and stronger and greener and seemed to have an almost infinite number of branches rippling and swaying in the wind, Miss Ellington paused, reached among the leaves, sank her fingernails into the base of a small withered branch, ruthlessly pinched it off, and tossed it over the garden fence into Tuscarora Woods. "That one wasn't going to grow any tomatoes," she remarked when she saw his face. She smacked her palms together. "We're better off without it." Oscar nodded and finished the last few drops out of the can. Miss Ellington said, "Finished? You must be thirsty after all this work." "I'll just have a glass of water at home," replied Oscar, "but thank you." "Come inside and enjoy my hospitality," ordered Miss Ellington.